2018, we launched the X-PERT Weight Programme. So that is a weight management programme and also a health and wellbeing programme as well for people who are just interested in improving their health. I came out of the NHS when I started to work with different organisations, but we still work a lot with the NHS. And we pride ourselves, we're a very small team, we are a registered charity. We are a very small team, just 8 individuals. And what we pride ourselves with more than anything is that we keep bang up to date. So we say that we help people make informed decisions about their dietary approach, about their health, and we keep abreast of the latest published evidence, and we pass that on in a simple to understand manner to people who enter our programs. So we really believe that one size doesn't fit all, and that it's down to the individuals to explore and find out what works for them. Now, I was asked today to spend 15 minutes to deliver a presentation, and I thought a good topic to discuss is what is an effective weight loss strategy, because we hear so many different things in the media. So what's the evidence telling us? So is it okay if I share my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah, lovely. So I've prepared a brief presentation. I'll share that with you now. It should take around 15 minutes to just kind of discuss, just go through the slides with you, and then we can open it up to discussion at the end. So here we see, standard weight loss advice. Is it effective? What do you think? Hands up if you think that a standard weight loss advice is effective, the advice that you get from your doctor or your nurse. So I can't see, I can't see any hands rising upwards. So I think you know what I'm going to say, but let's explore the science behind this. So first of all, to understand the problem, what is the problem? The problem is that rates of obesity and overweight are increasing. So I started work in the NHS in 1993, and already then the rates of obesity were in the teens, and rates of overweight were in 50 to 60%. And in the UK, the government launched the Health Nation report in 1992, which said we are going to have a target by 2005. We're going to reduce the rates of obesity for men down to 6% and for women down to 8%. Do you think that happened?
No.
No. You can see by the graph in front of you, it clearly didn't happen, and rates continued to rise. So the last health survey we have had was in 2019, that last one that was published. I suspect things have got worse because of COVID and lockdown, because a lot of people didn't put weight on. But the stats that we know go back to 2019, and almost a third of adults were obese. So 27% of men and 29% of women were obese in 2019. And between 60 and 68% of men and women adults were overweight. And it's not just a problem for adults. So children's rates of obesity really do tend to be associated with their parents' body mass index. And so 18% of boys and 13% of girls were obese in 2019. There's a difference in age, and you can see here that in men, then the age bracket from 65 to 74 is the worst for obesity statistics and also overweight statistics. For women, it's a bit earlier, so it's kind of the worst kind of tends to be between ages 45 and 74. But there's still quite a high proportion in 16 to 24-year-olds. So it's a problem across the age span, but middle age tends to be more of a problem. We know that body mass index has got limitations because body mass index, which is a calculation for your weight and your height, doesn't tell you where you're holding the fat. And if people have got more muscle mass on them, muscle weighs more than fat. So they can have a higher BMI, but actually not have as much fat on them. So we take waist circumference because that's really quite important. And what we see here, back in 1993, only 1 in 5 men and 1 in 4 women had a waist circumference that was classed as very high, more than 102 centimetres in men and more than 88 centimetres in women. And that significantly increased in 2019. So in 2019, 1/3 of men and almost 1/2 of women were classed as having a very high waist circumference. Now, we know if people are holding fat around their middle, there's more fat in and around their main organs like their heart, their pancreas, their liver, which causes more problems with their long-term health. So individuals might recognise that they're holding too much weight, so they seek help. And nowadays we've got the internet. So when you do a Google search for losing weight, in the UK, it comes up with the NHS 12-week guide. And here it tells us that people are more likely to be overweight if they eat and drink more calories than they need. And it tells them that the app will help them to reduce the number of calories down to around 1,400 a day for a woman and down to about 1,900 calories a day for men. So they're aiming for you to have this energy deficit, claiming that that will allow you to lose weight. In their 12 tips, tips number 1 and number 2 state, do not skip breakfast and eat regular meals. So let's explore the science behind that. Is it all about the calories? So can people eat whatever they like as long as they count the calories and make sure they don't eat too many calories? Well, if that was the case, why aren't people losing weight? And also in 2019, a survey, the UK National Diet Nutrition Survey, looked at how many calories people were eating. And people are almost on target. Women are having just over 1,500 calories a day, and men are having just over 2,000 calories a day. So that's almost on target for weight loss. But people aren't losing weight, they're gaining weight. So either people are underreporting how many calories they're eating. So is that because they're lying about how many calories they're eating? Or is this eat less, move more message and counting calories simply not effective? So let's look what happens when somebody eats less and moves more. So people might reduce their calorie intake and increase the amount of calories they are burning to create an energy deficit, so fewer calories. Will that lead to weight loss? In the short term, yes. Most diets in the short term result in weight loss. So somebody will say, yes, I'm losing weight, fantastic. But then what happens? That dreaded plateau. And some of you may be able to relate to that. There's always a plateau when people aren't considering what type of foods they're eating. And they think, is it my fault? Am I not trying hard enough? But what we know is that that plateau is the result of people's BMR reducing. BMR stands for basal metabolic rate. It's the amount of calories you burn a day. And so the body compensates. If there's fewer calories going in, the body compensates and slows down. And we call this dietary starvation mode. So then what happens? Well, people start to lose the willpower, don't they? They're no longer reaping the benefits from their calorie-reduced diet. They're missing their favourite foods, so perhaps some of those favourite foods start to sneak back in. And what does that cause? That causes the weight regain. And the after story from people going on a weight loss diet is often being heavier than they were before they started the diet in the first place. And this means that they've got a higher set point of their body thermostat. And how's that individual going to feel? They're going to blame themselves and say, it's my fault. I didn't have enough willpower. It's all my fault. I'll try harder next time. So next time they try to go on the weight loss diet, they go through that same vicious cycle again. And it's no different the second time. You know the saying, what is the saying? If you keep on doing what you've always done, you'll get the same results that you've always got. And that's because not considering the type of foods that are being eaten, the quality of the foods that are being eaten, that results in this dietary starvation mode. So a little bit about the science here. When we eat carbohydrate foods, it breaks down to glucose, and the glucose levels rise in our blood, and that stimulates our pancreas to release the hormone called insulin. What is insulin? Insulin is what we call the energy storage hormone. So when insulin levels are raised, then that gets us to store fat in our fat tissue. So lipogenesis is production of fat. So when insulin levels are raised, we make new fat to lay down in our adipose tissue, in our fat stores. It also causes us to lay down glucose stores in the form of the glucose store glycogen. But we can only store around 200 calories of carbohydrate in the muscles and the liver, and then that glucose will then be converted to fat as well. So insulin results in us storing fat. When insulin levels are low, so when there's little insulin in our blood circulation, that means we can start lipolysis, means breaking down of fat. So we can start breaking down the fat in our fat stores, and we can use that for energy. Now, obesity is a condition of high insulin levels. So hyperinsulinemia really means high insulin levels in the blood. So this is somebody who's normal and lean, and you can see here the black dots here is the insulin levels, low insulin levels. The more people put on weight, so obese and then diabetes, the higher the insulin levels go. So obesity means that people are carrying more insulin in their blood than they should be doing. Now, this is a very useful graph showing that when insulin, so on this bottom chart here, when insulin levels are low, then we can see that fat burning is higher. So insulin levels, so when we're fasted, we haven't eaten anything, then our body is in fat burning mode. But if you've eaten a meal with a lot of carbohydrate, insulin levels go up, and then we're in fat storage mode. So just to summarize that, if people eat carbohydrate food and drink above their personal tolerance level, it increases their blood glucose levels, which causes their pancreas to release too much insulin. So then that insulin causes them to convert the glucose into fat. The body cells get overweight. The insulin, which acts like a key to unlock the cell door, the key no longer fits the key lock any longer. So then we get insulin resistance. So then that makes the body make even more insulin to try and recover from the insulin resistance, to try to make the insulin to work better. And this puts the body into fat storage mode, leaving that individual tired and hungry. And I've seen so many people who come in to see me and say, but Trudy, I feel tired and hungry all the time. And that isn't their fault. It's because they have got high insulin levels, which puts their body into fat storage mode, which causes them to gain weight. If they're storing energy, they haven't got energy to use, so they feel a lack of energy, which makes them feel tired and lethargic, so they're more sedentary. It makes the lack of energy, stimulates hunger, so then they eat more, which causes even more weight gain. So it becomes a vicious cycle, and it's their fault. So when we deliver education programs, we see hope in individuals because they start to recognize, if I change how often I eat and what I eat, I can deal with this weight loss problem. We call this dietary starvation in the midst of plenty, because people who are overweight have got plenty of stored energy in their body, but they just can't access it. So it's like their fat stores has got a padlock around it. And what we need to do is to help people remove that padlock. And if they can remove that padlock, they can access their fat stores and have constant supply of energy and never feel tired or lethargic and hungry. So even in somebody who's lean, so at the top left-hand corner here, we've got a very, very lean athletic, only weighing 45 kilos, only 10% body fat. That individual has still got 44,000 calories stored in their body of fat. More average woman here, 70 kilos, 25% body fat. This woman has got 157,000 calories of fat stored in their body. So this individual down at the bottom right-hand side weighs 95, 50% body fat, and this individual has got 427,000 calories of fat stored in their body. So these individuals should never feel hungry and tired because they always have access to stored fat. So what's the solution? Well, clearly, if high insulin levels is causing these individuals to be in fat storage mode, then by reducing insulin, they can start to access that. And how do they reduce the insulin? In the main, is to reduce the carbohydrate, especially the refined carbohydrates. But then people say, but if you skip breakfast, if you don't eat as frequently, you're going to reduce your metabolism. It's bad for your metabolism. You've got to eat small and often to keep your metabolism high. Is that a fact or is it a myth?
A myth.
It is a myth, because when we're waking in the morning, we get a natural peak in a stress hormone called cortisol. And what does that cortisol do? It tells our liver to release glucose into the blood. So we get a spurt of energy in the morning, whether we eat or not. It also tells our fat tissue, our adipose tissue, to promote, to release fatty acids into our blood to give us a spike of energy. So we don't need to take in food in our mouths in the morning to give ourselves a spurt of energy. Our hormones do that for us. So my message to people is, if you're a breakfast lover and you really enjoy it, fine. But if you're not a breakfast lover, don't eat it. You don't need to. Obviously, the only concern around that is if people are on medications which require food to go with them. But you can always discuss that with your GP or healthcare practitioner. But then people say, oh, well, if you skip breakfast or you skip a meal, you're going to eat more throughout the day. The evidence doesn't support that. The evidence shows that if people reduce the frequency of eating, then they actually feel fuller and do not overeat at other times of the day. So this is a graph of what I've just been talking about. If someone's having breakfast snack, lunch snack, evening meal, then insulin's going to be raised throughout the day, and it's only when they're in bed at night that their body can access the fat stores to burn fat for energy. So metabolism is reduced when you're storing fat because the body goes into dietary starvation mode. So if people reduce the frequency of eating and have just 1 or 2 meals a day, or at least just cut out the snacks, then there's so much time, more time in a 24-hour period where the body sees the green there. That's when the body is able to access the stored fat in the body as an energy source. So let's look at this vicious cycle again and turn it around. If people don't just count calories to try and reduce the calories in the diet, but if instead they eat real low carbohydrate foods and reduce the frequency of eating, then they will lose weight. But will there be that plateau? No, because when they're not eating, they're able to get energy from their fat stores. And so the body doesn't need to slow down and compensate because the body's being fed. The body's not being fed by people putting food in their mouth, but the body is being fed by that individual's fat stores. And that's how people are able to lose weight. So there's no plateau. The body doesn't need to compensate. So then there's further weight loss. So then the after story is further a lower set point. So how does that make people feel? You see that confidence level going up. People think, I've got some hope now. I'm doing something that's working for me. And they feel that they're able to continue. So the last myth I'm going to talk about is people say, but carbohydrate is essential. You have to have carbohydrate. You die without it. And people often quote, you need 130 grams of carbohydrate a day for your brain. So is that a fact or a myth?
Myth.
It's a myth, isn't it? Because 80% of the brain's fuel can come from ketones. What are ketones? Ketones are a very natural byproduct when we're using fat for energy. So if we're burning fat from our fat stores in our body, we produce ketones. And ketones are a really clean fuel for our brain. If you're using about 80% of the energy for the brain from ketones, then the absolute amount of the glucose the brain needs is only between 22 and 28 grams a day. So where do you get, if you're not eating carbohydrate, where can you get that amount from? Well, most people in a low carbohydrate diet will be having 22 to 28 grams of glucose a day, so it's not a problem. But if someone's doing a 24-hour fast and not taking in any carbohydrate, then what happens? Well, first of all, carbohydrate is not an essential nutrient because if we don't eat it, we can make it. The body can make glucose. This is a list of all the essential nutrients. So we have essential fats, essential proteins, essential vitamins, and essential minerals. But carbohydrate isn't on there because we can make it. So for every 100 grams of protein we eat, if we have to, we can make 56 grams of glucose. For every 100 grams of fat we eat, if we need to, we can make 10 grams of glucose. So just having a fried breakfast of eggs, bacon, sausage, tomato, and mushroom could provide all the glucose that we need in a day, even if you don't have any carbohydrate. So in the dietary recommendations, it actually says the lower limit of dietary carbohydrate compatible with life is 0, providing that people are having a sufficient amount of fat and protein. And of course, the fat doesn't have to be the dietary fat, because it can be the fat from our fat stores breaking down when we're losing weight. That can be used. So the liver at rest can make up to 6 grams of glucose every hour. And during exercise, it can make up to 25 grams of glucose per hour. So that means in a 24-hour period, our body could make 600 grams of glucose if we wanted to. So we absolutely don't need to eat carbohydrate because the body can make it. So that's me said and done. And hopefully now we can open it up to having questions and a discussion.
Thank you, Trudy. If I can just share one thing, the one thing that I sort of want to get away from, I know it's going to be difficult because it's out there, is people using the term calorie because it's based on thermodynamics, and it's got absolutely nothing today to do with the way our body metabolizes the food that we eat. So even though the dietary industry uses calories, just cross it off the list of words to use, please. Okay, right. I'll hand it up to anybody now. Thanks, Trudy, again. Hello, can you hear me? Has anybody got any questions for Trudy, or anybody want to say anything?
I don't really have any questions as such. I'm just gonna agree with every single thing you've right said. I'm living evidence of that. That up till I became a low carb person, I was struggling with my whole lifestyle and needing steroid injections to walk, and I was in a really bad shape. And I was eating less and less and less and exercising, and I was really in a lot of pain. I was real hungry, I was ratty, I was everything. I broke, or something wrong with me. It cannot be this hard. It was so difficult to lose the weight, and I was doing all the right things and trying until I met traveling, and he said, let's go through your diet. And when I went through my diet, I was taking in board roughly between 45 and 50 teaspoons of sugar a day, because I was a pasta rice, and I could not believe it. Once I changed over, it was crazy. The weight just dropped off, like it was like snow. It was just gone. 2 years ago, and now I am loving life. I'm sitting around about 10 stone, very happy with myself. I'm very happy with what I am now, and eating a lot, but I eat between 3 and 7 o'clock. And then I don't eat the rest of the day, but I don't be hungry. I eat a good meal. I'll sit down, I'll have plenty of food till I can't eat anymore. Then the rest of the day, I'll continue on to do whatever I have to do. The next morning I get up, I'm not a breakfast person, so I would tend to be in the afternoon, drink water, drink coffee, and eat between 3 and 7, and there is no issue at all. How I get off that at the beginning, I would have been cooking dinner and had to go to the fridge. I couldn't control my hunger. I had to be eating something there and then, where low carb, the 6 weeks gave me that time to actually take control back of what I put in my mouth and say no. And once you get control back, then you're able to move forward. And it's so easy, and truly it works perfectly well. Everything you said is correct. Not that you didn't need my approval anyway, but yeah, it does.
You've done really well.
Thank you. Yeah,
awesome. Trudy, can I ask you, is it guaranteed if you go without food that you go into ketosis? Or is that something you're going to train yourself to do? Is it you automatically, if you don't eat, ketosis is working? Is that true? Or
so ketosis is you produce, if you're burning fat for energy, you'll produce ketones. So if you are losing weight, then you'll be producing ketones because you're burning fat for energy.
Yeah. But what if you don't lose weight and you're plateaued?
So if you are not having carbohydrate, or you're having very few carbohydrates, say less than 50 grams of carbohydrate a day, your priority fuel is likely to be fat, and therefore you're likely to be producing ketones. You won't absolutely know unless you test. And sometimes people, if they've got insulin resistance of the liver that needs perhaps a few months to recover, they might be throwing too much glucose out of their liver, and so that might prevent them going into ketosis, nutritional ketosis. So whilst the liver is healing itself, it might not be able to kind of keep reins on the amount of glucose that it's releasing into the blood. And if it's releasing too much glucose into the blood, that might prevent you from going into nutritional ketosis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but what I want to say, the reason I'm asking is because I've reached target weight, but obviously you stay the same, then you put on a couple of pounds, then you put on a couple of pounds. Well, I allow 4 pounds, and then I start being a bit more, getting back. So is it more difficult to get into ketosis when you're down to target weight? Obviously, I've still got fat. I never realised until you showed me just how much we've got there.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Yeah. So if you're putting on the 4 pounds, if you are still having a very strict low carbohydrate diet and you're doing the fasting, then it suggests that you probably still will be producing the ketones. And the only thing that might affect that, as I say, you've got a higher level of insulin resistance of the liver, which causes, the blood glucose levels still to be kind of increasing because of the insulin resistance of the liver. So yeah, and some people, I mean, they say that nutritional ketosis is between 0.5 and 3 for the ketones, and some people might never get beyond 0.5 and be happy with having kind of ketone levels round about 0.2, 0.3, whereas other people will have ketone levels up at 3, 4, or 5. So it just goes to show how we're all different individuals and our bodies work slightly different, and it depends what other processes are going on in the body.
Yeah,
I'll just ask this is the last time, give somebody else a chance, but it probably concerns them as well. But if you get into a high number of ketosis, how do you cope with that? Do you higher your carbs, or?
So I think people worry about high ketone levels because of the problem, the side effect with diabetes. So individuals, mostly with type 1 diabetes, is a condition called DKA, which is diabetic ketoacidosis. That is a completely different condition to nutritional ketosis. So what happens in diabetes, and I say it's like 99.9% type 1 diabetes, it's quite rare in type 2 diabetes, is that if people have not got enough insulin in their body, because type 1 diabetes is a condition where they stop making the insulin. So if they haven't got enough insulin in their body, then the glucose levels will rise very high. So the body is forced into using fat as an energy source, and ketone levels can go very, very high. So this dangerous condition called DKA happens when insulin levels are very, very low or non-existent. Blood glucose levels are very, very high, and then the blood can go quite acidic. Now, in nutritional ketosis, that's not going to happen because blood glucose levels, if people haven't got diabetes, when people are on a low carbohydrate diet, blood glucose levels keep low, and people tend to be hydrated. And so I've personally had ketone levels up at the 7 and 8 and felt absolutely fine and healthy. So it's down to that individual. Again, that was after a 5-day fast when my ketone levels rose, that my blood glucose levels were low. I was very, very healthy. and it wasn't a problem for me. So it's down to the individual and other things going on in their body, but type 1 diabetes, those ketone levels, it can be dangerous.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer.
Right, I've been trying to, I've started again today. And today what I've eaten is just some rolled up ham with some bits of cheese in there. I've had 2 bits of that today, and I've had 6 fish sticks. That's all I've had up to now. And I'm going to have homemade chicken curry tonight with cauliflower rice. I'm really rather hungry at the moment, and I'm not sure. I mean, I've lost my weight because I was doing low carb and I was fasting, but I've had a couple of operations this last year. So my cooking was left to my husband, and sometimes it was takeaways and things like that. And I've totally lost my way. And I just need to get back on there again. And I feel like my carb intake, maybe my liver's got too much sugar in it. I don't know. But I feel like I'm hungry all the time, and I'm not sure whether what I've done today is the right thing. What do you think?
So you've had success with low carb previously then, and you managed to lose a lot of...
I know you said that you couldn't stall. I did stall.
Right, yeah.
So I did stall, and I wanted to get more weight off. I still had weight on me. And I did stall, and I didn't know what to do. I know everybody else was just losing and losing and losing, but I stalled.
If I can just...
I've put weight back. I've put a stone on since I've had a hip replacement, and I've had a foot operation. So it's all about where I haven't been able to walk about.
It sounds like you've had a lot of stress.
I have had a lot of stress.
Yeah. Now, when I talked about cortisol, we get that natural peak first thing in the morning, and then you can see on that graph, it drops back down. But if people are stressed, because cortisol is a stress hormone, then it might stay up and keep up all day. Now, that then is causing you to release, just like you said, extra glucose into your circulation, which then will increase the insulin levels. So that could be what's happening, because if you're saying you feel hungry all the time, it could be that the stress hormones are causing increases in your glucose level, which is causing increase in your insulin level. So it's putting your body into fat storage mode. Yeah. So you're feeling hungry because you're storing the energy rather than being able to use the energy.
Yeah.
So is there any way that you could address your stress levels?
I'm trying to get myself back to my fitness levels. I've really lost. I'm out of puff. I struggle to walk about, and I mean, like, it's only since 19th of December since I had my hip done, and then I had my foot operated on in March. So I've had 2 big operations, and I'm just trying to get my levels back, and I just want to get my fitness back. I need to get this energy back that I had. And I thought, right, I'm taking over the cooking again. I think my husband, you know, he did his best, but sometimes when he's been at work all day, the last thing he wants to be doing is standing cooking, and I couldn't even stand. I couldn't even do any cooking. Because I've had, like I say, I had my foot operated on, and one of the pins has snapped, and that's gone totally wrong. So I'm just trying to get back on track again. And I thought, right, I'll have some ham with a bit of cheese in today. Was that a good choice?
Yep. So, I mean, that is going to reduce your insulin levels, because it's not, your liver might be throwing glucose into your circulation, but at least you're not putting it in as well. So that is going to help your insulin levels to reduce. And it might take a few weeks, you know, you might have to just persevere for a few weeks to see any benefit from doing that.
Because I'm on long-term antibiotics as well, which I don't think that helps.
Yeah, that can affect your gut microbiota. Also, just having the ham with the cheese sticks, do you think, I mean, fibre fills you up as well. So perhaps if you'd had like ham and cheese in a big bowl of salad or something like that, would that have, with some mayonnaise on or something, would that have kind of perhaps, because if you eat more fibre, that actually helps your stomach to feel full, which helps you psychologically, and also it helps to reduce the emptying of the stomach as well, so your stomach feels fuller for longer. Protein is fantastic as well, so my advice would be a combination of fibre and protein at a meal. So eggs, you know, kind of a 3 or 4 egg omelette with some salad is probably psychologically more fulfilling than just having a few ham rolled up with cheese, because that you're not eating quantity as much, are you? So are you satisfied psychologically when you've just had a few sticks of ham and cheese?
Yeah.
Whereas if you've made a kind of a 3 or 4 egg omelette and had it with some salad, you might feel psychologically more satisfied, and that might carry you through until your evening meal then.
Would you put some cheese in that omelette to build the fat up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I can just say one thing, please, on this, is that I found on my own weight loss journey that while I was trying to lose weight, eating fat hindered my weight loss, because I was producing the ketones, and we said, well, if you're in a low carbohydrate situation, you're going to be producing ketones, but I was making the ketones from the fat I was eating and not the fat that I was wearing. That's all. I would, you know.
I agree. Yeah,
I was wondering about whether I needed to eat more fat. I wasn't sure what to do.
Yeah. If you eat too much fat, then you'll use that, like just said, that you'll use that fat as energy rather than your stored fat. And if you wanted to lose weight, the idea is to lose stored fat. So adding a little bit of fat to increase the taste of food, so a little bit of grated cheese on with your omelette. But I wouldn't go for the kind of, you know, like some people do with the cream and the coffees and lots of butter and everything. I'd add a little bit of fat for taste, but don't overdo it, because you're wanting ideally to use your fat stores for energy and not the dietary fat for energy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'll need to get myself back into. I mean, I've got all the books and I've started today, and hopefully I can start walking around. I've done a little bit of a walk today, and I'm going to try and beat that time, you know, and just build myself back up, because I just need my fitness levels back. I've got a granddaughter to look after, and I'm finding it hard work.
Be kind to yourself as well. Don't expect, you know, kind of miracle, results straight away. Be kind to yourself and experiment, because we're all different and we all find our own kind of weight loss journey and pathway by experimenting. And so by experimenting, you'll say, yeah, that really works for me, and go keep up with that.
I just want to say that cheese has been one thing that's mentioned in our group quite a bit as a trigger food for a lot of the people, that when they start eating cheese, they can't stop. So you also have to figure out, like saying, what works for you and what doesn't. Like, nuts are another one. Nuts can be trigger food. They're moreish, you know, you eat a handful or you eat the whole bag. So I just want to warn people that adding fat it's not just fat. It's what the fat comes in. If it comes in cheese and cheese is a trigger food, you'd be better off with mayonnaise on your salad.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can we just bring Amanda in, please, because she had a hand up, if that's okay. Sorry. Thanks, Amanda.
Hi.
Thank you.
No, it's cool, thank you, and hi Trudy and everybody else. Yeah, Trudy, I really would like just some personal advice, if that's not too cheeky on this, but when I saw you were here, I thought I have to nab you for 5. I started this in 2018, and I was very sick due to being injured during surgery and lost about 10 years, but I lost 13 stone from 2018 to October 2021. I'd got to 13 stone loss, which still left me at 19 stone. I was very sick. I was almost 32 stone when I started this. But I got injured by the physiotherapist in October 21. He tore my ACL, and now I can barely walk. And I already had mobility problems before. And since that date, and it is literally like you put a pin in that date, I am gradually gaining weight. And I've now got to nearly 3.5 stone weight gain since then. I am super clean and always have been. I read everything, and I literally dived in deep and went full on head first. So I never go over 20 grams of total carbs, and never have done since I started this. I'm very conscious of everything I eat. I fast all the time. So, you know, I will only eat once or twice a day, but I will eat in a very short window of like 3 to 4 hours, late afternoon, early evening. I wore a CGM last year, and weirdly, my blood glucose levels are fantastic throughout the day when I've eaten and so on. However, by about 11 o'clock at night, my blood glucose goes up, and it stays up until about 7 or 8 in the morning. And I am in chronic pain. I've also got polycystic ovarian syndrome. I've also got Hashimoto's hypothyroidism, and I'm also menopausal. So it's kind of like ding, 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 ding. And I kind of think that hormones has got to be a major factor, because what I'm doing, I know loads of other people, predominantly a lot of men, can eat more carbs than me, and everything else the same, and it will just drop off them. Whereas now I am completely stalled, and I've not gone off it. I mean, I believe I'm a PHC ambassador, but I feel like a fraud, frankly, at the moment, because it's not working for me, and I can't understand what else I can do. Help.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Trudy's frozen.
Glucose levels going up to?
Sorry, say again.
What are your blood glucose levels going up to?
Right, I can't remember now, because it was, like I say, it was February last year when I wore them. I showed them to Jo McCormack, because she was the one who sent it to me, and she was just like, "That's bizarre," you know. And I think it has to be to do with cortisol levels. I mean, we're not talking. It wasn't above 10, so we're not talking crazy high or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it was like 7 or 8, when I would never get that high post meal for the 2 hours. I would never go really above 5.2. So, you know, everything was really good until I'd go to sleep.
So that's your liver is releasing that, and that must be down to hormones. So whether it's the hormones from menopause, whether it's the hormones, I think you're saying a lot of pain, and I think then it's the stress hormones from the pain. Is there any way that you could pain management at all? Is there any way you could reduce the pain?
No, I mean, I could write a book on it. So I do everything like the best I can, and I was on OxyContin and all sorts prior to doing this journey, and I came off all those meds, and I did dabble. They did sort of try and suggest put me back on stuff, and I tried for a bit, but it affects my brain too much, and that's the only thing that still functions in my body, it seems. So I can't cope with the pain meds, so I don't take any of those again. But it hasn't made any difference, in all fairness, to my pain, you know. And I've got very good sleep management, so some nights I might only get to 3 or 4 hours sleep, because I just can't. I have to sleep almost like I'm putting myself in a coffin and strap my legs together. I can't sleep on, I have to sleep in one position, and I cannot move, otherwise my knees will dislocate. So I have to be very careful, mindful of that. But I mean, last night I slept for 7 hours, so you know, it's up and down, but I'll get a couple of good nights a week.
And with wearing the CGM, do you see any difference in the blood glucose levels at night? By experimenting and doing some things differently, perhaps are you able to do stretches or anything like that before bed? To anything?
No, I used to, but not since now. I can barely lift my left leg. It will dislocate. It's only the skin that's holding my knee together. So I'm waiting in the hope of a knee brace, but it could be months, you know. So I'm kind of, I don't just sit here and do nothing, but I can't do much stretches. I used to do yoga. I used to do Pilates actually all the time up until my ACL was torn. So, and even actually after that, I was doing it until I got all the dislocations last summer. I was still using a Pilates bar on my bed and doing Pilates on there, because I'm also hypermobile. So I'm used to being extremely flexible and stretchy, but I'm becoming the opposite now, it seems.
This must be really, really frustrating. Have you noticed any difference at all when you're fasting compared to when you're not fasting? Is there any difference in the rise in blood glucose in the evenings?
I only got to wear the CGM for 2 weeks. I couldn't really afford one, so I only had a fortnight. I would love to do one again, but it's just the cost, you know. And the other thing is, because I've got an underactive thyroid, which is autoimmune. So many people say you mustn't fast when you've got an underactive thyroid. There's so many different messages for all the conditions I have, which it sometimes find yourself stuck between a rock and a hard place of knowing which way to navigate through different conditions and what they suggest. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on, if you've got a thyroid issue, whether fasting is problematic. Some people will say it's the worst thing you could do for your thyroid. Others say you can be really careful. Some say it shouldn't really matter. And you're just like, who do I believe? Because all these people are in the low carb keto space. So you're kind of, it's very confusing as to which way to go.
My understanding, but I can't quote any research to you, my understanding is that it doesn't impact. So you're okay fasting with a reduced thyroid, but that's my understanding. But I haven't gone into it in a lot of detail. Just from talking and reading I have done, it's just that the level is at T3 are lower, but that it's more effective. So fasting doesn't further deteriorate things.
Yeah. So in terms of like menopause hormones, is there anything you would recommend for women to, within this space to change or adapt?
Are you on HRT at all? Are you considering it? Because the latest kind of evidence on HRT is that initial kind of research suggested that it could increase breast cancer and cardiovascular disease, whereas now the thinking is that it's more beneficial than not. So it can certainly help with joints and bone and mood and weight loss. And they're actually now suggesting that if people go on HRT and it works for them, that they can stay on for lifelong now. And so rather than kind of the mixed one, they're suggesting like the patches and the gels with the progesterone tablet. So it could be worthwhile exploring that. I certainly have seen a lot of people out going through the menopause or perimenopausal try the HRT and getting a lot of success with it, with their mood, their sleep, but also with their weight as well. So it could be worthwhile discussing that with GP and seeing whether it's something you want to try out and see whether it works for you.
Yeah, okay. I think I'll ask one more question, which is a slight naughty one, just one little one. VLCD, what's your thinking on that in terms of getting into nutritional ketosis? Even though we all agree that calories don't matter, but obviously a VLCD works on that, which is the only way of ketosis the NHS seem to agree with. What's your thinking of that from a dietetic point of view?
I think if it works, if someone wants to try it, I'll support them in trying it. And if it works for them, because if someone's got an awful lot of weight to lose, then people can often lose between 10 and 15 kilos, so 1 and 2 stone in a 3-month period. So it is a more, it allows the people to get into nutritional ketosis very quickly. It needs a lot of willpower for people to stick with it, but when they are deep in nutritional ketosis and they're seeing the weight loss, it keeps people motivated. It's also another positive side that I've experienced with people is that if people have got an unhealthy relationship with food and they go for the shakes and the soups, it almost removes those individuals having to think about food, having to prepare food. And so whilst they are kind of the 12 weeks or 14 weeks on the shakes and soups, they can perhaps readdress their relationship with food, and when they start to reintroduce foods into their diet and kind of base those foods on real foods, none of the ultra processed, then I've seen people have a much better relationship with food moving forward. So less of the comfort eating, less of the psychological eating, and more eating for true hunger. So I have seen people benefit with the very low energy diet. So I certainly wouldn't knock them. If people want to try them, I'd say, well, it's not a long-term solution because obviously you can't stay on a very low energy diet for lifelong. And we often talk to people about sustainability. But if people try it for a short period of time, it allows them to lose weight quicker. And then they adopt low carb, kind of intermittent fasting, real food approach that is sustainable. Once they've lost quite a lot of weight, it can be fine. And because you go into nutritional ketosis, then you're not going to damage your metabolism.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am contemplating it, which I know goes against all what we believe in. But I think sometimes when if it's not working, you've got to try something else, haven't you? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I am contemplating that. Okay, thank you so much for
Right.
listening to me. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Can I ask a question, Trudy?
Yes.
Hi, Trudy. Hi. I was just interested in the graphs that you were showing. Do you know where the peaks for the males and the females, that the males were peaking later in life and the women were peaking before? What's the explanation for that?
I have absolutely no idea. So I think perhaps, you know, women were peaking earlier because of the menopause. It could be. People often tend to put weight on. I'm just kind of thinking on my toes right now. But, you know, we know that a lot of women put weight on around perimenopausal, menopausal, and the weight increase started to see it at age 45 for women. So that could be down to the hormones again.
Yeah.
The hormones have got so much blame, haven't they?
Yeah, and even for the 16-year-olds, that could explain that as well, couldn't it, with the adolescent growth?
Yeah. I mean, they say that because all of a sudden, girls, you know, going through puberty, their fat stores significantly increase. It isn't that they start getting lazy or they start eating more than boys. It's because of the hormones. And so, you know, the hormone impact of women and kind of when they're going through the menopause can have that impact as well.
And Trudy, do you find, speaking to women, that people on a low carb diet have less menopausal symptoms or not? Because I've heard that the worse you are metabolically, the more symptoms you're likely to have, like the hot flushes and the weight gain, mood swing. Have you got experience?
I have had those conversations with women, and I think, without doing any active research in that area, I think that people report less menopausal symptoms to me when they're on a low carb dietary approach than they do if they're, say, on a low fat dietary approach. I myself, as one there, I'm kind of going through that stage, and I haven't, touch wood, not I've been low carb now, keto low carb for 9 years. And I've not had a single symptom of going through the menopause at all. So fingers crossed, may that continue.
Awesome. Congratulations. And because I've also read a lot of doctors say, I'm a GP, and a lot of doctors say, well, if you give people HRT, it's just prolonging the problem. Like they're going to get the symptoms if you're just putting them off, really. So if the people are taking it for symptoms, then if either they're going to deal with it, you know, they can either deal with it now and take the hormone, or they can go through it without the hormone. And sorry, if they take the HRT, when they come off the HRT, they'll start getting the symptoms again. So it's if it's worthwhile or not.
But now they're suggesting that people stay on to stop the symptoms coming back. They're now suggesting that it's okay to stay on the HRT, you know, continuously. Do you agree with that?
I don't know. Just because I want people to take hormones forever, you know, it just doesn't seem natural.
No. I mean, there's the biosimilar ones, isn't there? But it's not an area I personally have explored in detail. But I think I have talked to people who have, and there's certainly some people feel so much better when they do go on to the HRT. So I think, again, it's like statins. It's got to be, every individual needs to make that an informed decision after exploring and discussing it with their GP or healthcare team.
Yeah. All right. Great to have your insight. Thank you.
You're on mute, Treffling.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Does anybody else want to ask a question or want to say anything? Sorry, Andrea, I didn't mean to cut you off like that before. I just wanted Amanda to finish because we don't often see Amanda, and I really do appreciate that lady. She's gone through such a lot. So is that you, Wynne?
No.
I want to say thank you.
Has anybody else got anything they want to say or ask before we go then? Because
Shall I say something, Treflin?
Yes, please, Anna. It'd be nice to see you. I've not seen you for ages. How are you doing? I've really missed you on here. So I'm going to spotlight you with.
Oh, my video is not working, unfortunately. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, all right, never mind. I imagine what you're looking like. I imagine you're cooking the meal. Okay, off you go. Sorry.
No, Trudy, thank you so much. So I'll try to share my experience. I think it's good to be in the same group. It's good to see some familiar faces as well. Unfortunately, my video is not working, but I'll probably catch up. And that's why I like to be in this group or Joe's group. It keeps you on the toes. So I have bad news. So I've gained 1.5 stones. So I lost 3.5 stones, Trudy. I was doing low carb since the COVID 2020. And June I started. I think Lynn knows me more. So I started doing it since June 2020. So I lost about 4 stones. And now I've gained just over 1 stone in the last 4 to 6 months. I think with the travel coming back, world opening, it's very easy to go off track. So and despite me, I'm still doing fasting. So I'm doing fasting about 13 to 20 hours every day. I went from 3 meals with snacks, eating late, to 1 meal a day, slowly over a period of time. So I research health a bit more. Still working. I think sleep is the biggest problem. So sleep, I'm working on my sleep. I know sleep has such a big influence on. I think your charts were great. It just shows how things are. I think sometimes visual impression is far better than verbal talk on that. So those green areas tells you where you can. Every time we eat, we spike our insulin. So like Amanda, I think Amanda did immensely well. Treflin did immensely well. So they are good examples of how, but also examples of small amounts of failures are also important. I think mine and Amanda's example of coming back and gaining a bit of weight is also a big reminder for the rest of the people in the group. It's very easy to come back. And we don't want to come back because, I think Jennifer was saying something, how thankful the body is. And the more closer to you reach your target weight, the more slower it gets. And sometimes it gets frustrating. So I went up to 75 kgs. From 100 kgs, I went to 75 kgs. And then it hovered around 75 kgs. And slowly, I just gained less than half a stone. And then I'm back to about 84 kgs now. So I'll work on it. So it's partially it's my fault. Apart from fasting, I tried multiple things. For other people in the audience, I tried intermittent fasting. I tried to work on my sleep. I still think sleep is the best healer in the body apart from fasting. And then I do low carb, but being Indian, I still eat a lot of vegetables because I try to improve my gut microbiome. So I eat a lot of vegetables, and most of the vegetables are low carb. So I'm a big fan of cauliflower family. So cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, all of them, cabbage. I always alternate days make it. Stefan was saying, as soon as I come back from work, I start cutting things. So it delays my fast a bit more. So if it's 16 hours, 18 hours, then I make it into 19 hours. Autophagy is what I'm aiming at. I think somebody was asking earlier. I think I need it. Being a heart patient, I need a bit of an internal cleaning as well. My biggest problem has been alcohol. So I think I'll try to be off alcohol. I think Lynn is on this. So I tried red wine, but alcohol is such a problem. Once you start, you don't restrict to half a glass. So that's why alcohol is the biggest metabolism killer. So alcohol and bad sleep. So the raised cortisol levels you're talking about. I'm sure the pain has got such a big influence for Amanda's weight gain. Because pain is raising your stress and that is raising your cortisol and that is affecting your weight gain. So I'm working on it. I'll probably report. I'll try to be more regular here. I'm been slightly off tracks. Just get caught up. That's what's happened to us. And once you stop, think about it, it's all doable. We have done this in the past and we can again do it. The key is consistency. So especially when you go out with people who are not low carb, that's where things go wrong. So we meet people, we meet friends. You don't want to be a fussy person. You don't want to be that person who doesn't drink alcohol, who wants this kind of food. And so fussy people are not invited or not liked, very well liked. So you try to mingle with people. So even if people invite me, I'll eat my food and then go, and then I'll have something there. So just close by, so that my eating window is still 3 hours. I think Jennifer or somebody else was saying they eat between 3:30 and 7:30. So I eat, because I finish work by 5:30, and I cook. So I normally eat between 5:30 and 7:30. So my fasting is usually 18 to 22 hours. I'll work on it. I'll report some positive news next time. So hopefully.
Thank you, Anuj. I think positive news is what we want to hear. Andrea, you've got some positive news for us. I'm sure, Julie, you've got positive news. Waldy, over there in Iceland, you've got some positive news. Who else has got some? Come on, Waldy. Tell us what's going on in Iceland. Keep us in the picture.
It's very good here. There's good weather today in Iceland, but I'm on the right track. So.
Are you going to hypnotize us into
Yeah.
You're taking a course in hypnosis, aren't you?
Yeah. Just listen now, good.
Sleep.
Sleep. No, actually, I'm having a marvelous time, and I thank you for this. I'm listening, and it is very educatable and good to listen to.
Yeah, we love having you with us, Waldy.
Yeah.
Andrea, you've been very quiet today, which is not at all like you, Andrea.
Yeah, I know. When I start talking, that's the problem. I always have a lot to say. But I mean, all I can say is that this has changed my life. Low carb, lower fat. I did carnivore a few years ago for 9 months. And while it was wonderful in many ways, I didn't really lose much weight because, at that point, I thought I could basically eat as much fat as I wanted. And that's just not the case. So I have lost 25 pounds on low carb, lower fat. And I've maintained that for a year now, over a year now. So I'm very happy with that. And so I went from 142 pounds down to 117 pounds. And this morning I'm 117.6, but a few days ago, I was 116.6. So, there's like this little couple of pound up and down. It averages out at about 117. And it's not hard. It's not easy, but it's not hard in the sense that you can't do it. You have to be very responsible to yourself, is what I would say. You have to basically be truthful with what you're doing. Like you can't cheat yourself because it's just going to show up in pounds. And I love coming to the group because that keeps me honest as well. I have to tell you guys what I'm doing, and I write everything down every day.
Good. I was just going to say, nobody's mentioned journaling, and I think that's
I journal religiously.
Absolutely. Tricia, get your journal out there, writing it down. We haven't heard from Margaret today, but write down what you eat. Weigh yourself every day. The scales are your friend; they're not your enemy. And you can see that if you've had a pork pie and you put on a pound, then you know where this come from. Or if you haven't had anything at all and you've been really, really good and you've lost 2 pounds, you know what's done it. And that's like Trudy was saying, we have to find out what works for us, because one size doesn't fit all, Are we still okay for time with you, Trudy? Are we all right for another 15 minutes, would you say?
Yes, that's fine. Yep.
Okay. I want to bring Lynn in if I can, because Lynn's type 1 diabetic. I hope you don't mind me mentioning that, Lynn. And so your situation is different, and there might be something that you want to ask or share.
I don't know. The diabetic needs to take carbohydrate. You need it to take your insulin. But actually, now, you don't need the real insulin, the fast-acting insulin, if you're not taking it. But they're kind of coming round to that way of thinking now, but without really saying it. So they say, don't take your insulin when you're going through the door if you're not having any carbs. see you in 3 months. But they won't really. So I take the long-acting insulin, just the same. I don't have, if I'm not having acting. So I was eating to take insulin, which is crazy. So all these years
and have you noticed an improvement in your diabetes control then?
Yeah. So if I'm not eating that, I don't need to take it. Where before I was eating and I wasn't hungry.
You were feeding the insulin, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but now this time I've got fatty liver, but they've not given me anything to do about that.
We're not hearing you very well, Lynn. Lynn, we're not hearing you very well.
No, because of the internet, not good.
Okay, carry on.
So, yeah, I've been diagnosed. I don't really, I don't drink. I might not for 2 years. I'm not really a drinker. So I don't know, but they've not really said about that either.
Well, non-alcoholic fatty liver is caused when glucose is converted to fat in the liver. So we call it de novo lipogenesis. So de novo means production, new production, and lipogenesis is fat. So when people have too much carbohydrate for their personal carbohydrate threshold, then that extra glucose is converted to fat in the liver and can cause fatty liver. So non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is now more of a it's more prevalent than alcohol fatty liver disease.
Right. So I've worked it out myself now. I've not been told anything different, that I just more control over the carbohydrates I eat. So try not to eat them. And in 2 weeks, I don't know if I've lost weight because my scales battery sad, isn't it? But I don't know if I've lost weight, but I'm not in as much pain now, and I don't feel stiffly anymore. I've not been taking a lot of carbohydrates in, so I've been eating a lot. I've been eating fish, chicken, and vegetables, and taking less insulin, and I feel better already. I'm sleeping better than I was, but I just can't believe that they've not told me what to do about it. Just carry on. I've got to go for some more testing, and then I've got to have some more tests in the next 2 or 3 months, but I don't know what they are. But what happened before Christmas, I'd gone out just to somebody's house, and I had a bit of Prosecco, and I'd ate fish and chips. I'd ate fish and chips that night because we was getting ready to go out for Christmas. And then I just had a bit later on in the evening, just to be polite, really, because they put all this food. Oh, do you want something? So I just had a bit of that because I wasn't really hungry. And then I woke up in the morning, my side was killing me, and I was just being sick, and I couldn't stop being sick. So that brought me to have the scan, and then they said, they released me from hospital and said there was nothing wrong, and then my doctor phoned me and said, your liver's healthy. I said, they said my liver was fine. She said, no, it's not. So I presume that's why I was sick, because I had the alcohol. I'm not a doctor. And because I'd had fatty food. And previous, before that, Trevelyan's my brother-in-law, and Anne was down here, and we went out, and I ate. I don't know if I had a breakfast. I had something fatty, and then I felt not well, so I tried myself. I had butter. Then I didn't feel well, so I assume that's why, but I don't know. I'm just playing Google doctor at the moment.
Well, fatty liver doesn't stop you digesting fats, so I don't know why fats would make you feel sick. So that's perhaps something to mention to your GP.
Yeah, I don't know, because I'm trying to read it for myself. So maybe why, or I really don't know. But I do feel I have reduced all the carbs in my diet, and I do feel better. The pain's not there now, so
How to leave?
I'm not very sure.
Okay, Lynn, can I bring Janet in? Thanks, Lynn, for sharing that. Let me just bring Janet in. She's been waiting patiently. Thanks, everybody.
That's all right.
I know to speak at once, and it's difficult.
Hello, Trudy, is it?
Yes.
Hi. How long have I been doing this now? 2 years getting on. And I've been trying to lose weight for 30 years, yeah, without success, getting heavier and heavier. And I've lost 58 pounds now. But I am plagued with leg cramps. Everybody knows this. I did come off it in the summer. I put nearly a stone back on, but the leg cramps went. I was just exhausted. I was being kept awake at night, and it's agony. I've taken electrolytes, as on the packet, magnesium tablets. I've sort of come to the conclusion it's something to do with not holding water in, because whenever I get the leg cramps, I look and feel very dehydrated. I wear contact lenses, they get uncomfortable, and that always coincides with the leg cramps starting. And if I drink more, I just pee it out. So, you know, there's no way around it. And I've lost most of what I put back on again, but I'm just starting to get the twinges again. It usually takes about a month to start up again, but it's horrific. It really is. Stamping around the bedroom floor in agony.
Have you tried a bath with Epsom salts?
Yep.
Yeah, you've tried that. Yeah. So, I mean, people lose often more water because their insulin levels in the blood reduce, and so and your sodium levels reduce, and so your sodium retains water in your blood. Have you tried adding more salt to food?
Yes, I have, and I do feel it makes me feel more hydrated. I think I might be onto a bit of one there, but it has just started again. It's like rest twitching in with muscles at night.
Right.
Do you think I should increase salt even more? I'm not a person who's frightened of salt. I do like salt.
What's your blood pressure?
Last time it checked, it was normal for my age.
I'd just perhaps experiment for the next week, just adding more salt. I'm somebody who needs quite a lot of salt, but my partner doesn't. If I don't have enough salt, I end up with leg cramps and I go dizzy. So I have to forcefully remind myself every single meal I eat to add salt. And that helps. So you could try it for a week and see if it works for you.
Just put some in my drinks and things, in my tea and coffee and things like that. I'm at the point where I don't want any more salt in my food, you know. I like salt, but what I'm eating's got enough salt in it.
Right.
But you know, the only other way is to just have to keep putting a pinch in drinks, in water and tea and coffee, which I don't really mind. Yeah.
Well, just experiment to see if it works, and if it helps to reduce the muscle cramps, then you know that your body's crying out for that salt.
Yeah. Okay, right. Yeah, I mean, the electrolytes, they didn't seem to do any good at all, and they're so expensive as well.
Salt-
I was
salt
knocking
works.
them back.
Another thing is quinine. Quinine as well. You can get
Quinine.
quinine, and that is often. I think you might have to get it prescribed, but it is a prescription for leg cramps if it becomes a problem.
Is it? Yeah. I mean, I was getting to the stage I was going to go to the doctor about it.
I just want to say, I sympathize because Janet, I've had terrible leg cramps with low carb and carnivore. Two things, definitely magnesium, but not in tablet form, in the powder, like the product called Calm, 2 teaspoons at night. I usually take it in sparkling water, and it's a little bit citrusy, and you can get flavored ones. And the other thing is salt. I put salt in everything I drink. Like this was coffee this morning, decaf, black coffee. And I shook 20 shakes from the salt cellar into it. Same with tea or whatever. I actually taste it. I can't taste it in it. It actually tastes better. It's sort of, what's the word? It modifies, that's not the word. It makes it taste a little bit better. Anyway, and salt and magnesium, but I can go a few days or a couple of weeks without the magnesium, but the leg cramps will come back, and I take the magnesium and they go. But the magnesium pills never work for some reason. I think maybe because I don't digest them, perhaps properly.
No, I've got magnesium tablets. Isn't there any good at all?
No, I think they go right through you or something sometimes. But also, yeah. Anyway, doesn't matter. But the Calm. It's been an absolute miracle for me, and it's backwards. And I can get it here sometimes in a drugstore, but usually I just order it online. And
right, I'll have a look at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep trying, keep experimenting.
You keep the salt up. Like everything you drink, put salt in it. And not just one shake, but some salt in it. You probably can't, unless you're getting up to like a quarter teaspoon, you probably can't even taste it in like a coffee. So
okay.
Yeah, you should be able to deal with this, because definitely that's what's causing the problem. Because as soon as you eat carbs, you retain water, you retain the electrolytes.
Yeah,
it's pretty simple.
Yeah, I know when they're going to start. I look in the mirror and I look haggard. And my eyes feel dry, and all coincides with the leg cramps starting.
Yeah, so take the salt, you'll retain more water, and that's, you might put on half a pound or something because of retaining more water, but that's not fat, it's just water. So can you please report back to us, because I want to know that this just isn't my experience, that maybe that is really what's going to fix it for you, because we haven't seen you.
I will. I know. Work.
I'm going to
add
Jennifer. Jennifer,
good to hear it from a doctor.
Yeah, I only wanted to ask. I've got to have reduced salt because I've suffered from my ears. But so I don't have no salty food or anything. Very, very difficult. What would you say it would be the amount of salt that I would need in a day when I don't have any cheese or bacon or processed food, nothing that contains salt? Would it be, say, a teaspoon a day?
Yeah, so around 2.5 grams to 5 grams a day.
And just stretch it out during the day, perhaps a pinch in each drink, rather than have it in one go.
Yeah, definitely throughout the day.
Very difficult, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. So, are we all okay?
Yes.
I was going to say, with the magnesium, make sure you're taking a high enough dose, because you should. Sometimes, like if you buy a tablet, the actual amount of, you have to look at the elemental magnesium in it. So if your elemental, you might say it's 200 milligrams on the capsule, but you might only be getting 45 milligrams of magnesium. So you want 400 at least as a minimum every day. And so if you take the powder, you're more likely to get that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Magnesium citrate I was taking. I can't remember what the size was now.
Yeah.
Mm.
On the packet, what it says on the packet is not how much you're getting, unless you look at the back of the ingredients and see how much elemental magnesium there is.
And what do you need a day?
At least 400 milligrams.
400, right. I'll have a look at that. Thank you.
So I put it in the salt like Andrea. Sorry, I make a drink of water in the morning and I put my teaspoon of salt in, but I use the low salt because it's got potassium in it as well. So that's replacing. So I don't buy electrolytes, so I just make it at home. So I use a teaspoon of low sodium and potassium, and then I put in magnesium. And it's better if you have it, especially if you're getting symptoms. It's better if you have 200 milligrams in the morning and 200 in the evening, rather than taking it all at once.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah,
That's handy.
And
Which is
you'll feel a lot better.
right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Trudy, for coming on. That was amazing. Thanks.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Trudy.
Thank you, Trudy. Thank you.
See all the regulars next week.
And
Maybe a few more of you.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care now. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So good to see you.
Thank you, Adam. Take care. Have a good night. Bye.
If you're watching this video on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and ding the bell so you don't miss out on our future videos.